Welcome back everybody to another Swift programming language tutorial. This is part 6 of our basics series, and in this tutorial we're going to be going over switch statements. And switch statements are very similar to using an if statement, and you'll see the similarities as we go over our examples. So let's go ahead and get started with our first example. In this first example, this is just a very basic switch statement. So what we have done is we've created a variable called letter, and we have assigned the letter A. Now to create the switch statement, we use the reserved or keyword switch, and then we put the variable name after the switch that we want to consider. So in this case, we're going to consider this variable here. We type out switch letter, and then inside the curly brackets, we create cases that will evaluate this letter and then do something based on the value of that variable. So in the first case, if the letter is A, we're just going to use a print to display a message that says the letter variable is A. If the value of this variable is B, then we're going to again use another print to display a message that says the letter variable is B. And if the value for the letter variable is C, then we're going to use a print to display the message the letter variable is C. And then we're going to use a default. So you use the default keyword or reserved word as a catch-all. And in this case, for the default, we're just going to say if it's not A, B, or C, we'll use a print to display that message, not A, B, or C. So let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. Okay, so down here in the console, we get the letter variable is A. And that's because we set this variable to have the value of A. Now if we change this to B, now we should get this output because we've created a case for B that gives us a slightly different output, or it does something slightly different. Now as we mentioned, we're just using prints in this example. However, you can do other things besides just a print. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, and since we changed the value of this variable, and our switch statement is using this variable and then doing something based on the value of that variable, and since the case B uses a print to display the message the letter variable is B, that's what we get down here in the console. Now if we change this to C, this case should now kick in. Let's go ahead and run it, and you can see in the console we get the letter variable is C. And then if we assign a value to this variable that does not fit any of these cases, then the default kicks in. So let's go ahead and put something in that does not fit case A, B, or C. So let's just put in D. We should expect the default to kick in. And you can see the default does kick in, and we get the message for the default, which is not A, B, or C. Okay, so just a quick recap. As you can see, a switch is somewhat similar to an if statement, and the basic setup for a switch statement is you create some type of a value, and in this case we assigned it to a variable, and then you consider that variable, and depending on the value of that variable, you want to do certain things. So in this basic example, we said if it is A, do this. If it is B, do this. If it is C, do this. And then we use a default as somewhat of a catch-all that if it doesn't fit case A, B, or C, then do this. So if you were going to use an if statement for what we have done here with the switch, you can see the similarities, whereas in the if statement you might say if letter equals A, do this, else if letter equals B, do this, else if letter equals C, do this, else do this. Okay, so that is how you create a basic switch, and you can see how it is somewhat similar to an if statement. So let's go ahead and comment this out, and let's move on to our next example. Now in this example, you can see that the setup is very similar to our previous switch. Once again, we created a variable, then we used the switch reserved word or keyword, and then we put in the variable that we want to evaluate. Then inside the curly brackets, we put our cases and our default. Now the difference in this example is that for the cases, notice we have several different options. So if this variable here, animal, fits any of these cases, Labrador Retriever, German Shepherd, Golden Retriever, Boxer, Great Dane, or Doberman Pinscher, then we're going to get this message back here that says is a dog. Okay, so all these options for this case here are dogs. Then for the next case here, once again, we have put in several different options for this case. And if this variable here fits any of these options, such as Siamese, Persian, tiger, lion, panther, cheetah, then this is going to display a message that says is a type of cat. Then finally, we use our default, and this is not a perfect example because there are lots of other different types of dogs and cats. But in this example, we're just going to keep it real simple, and we're going to say if the animal variable doesn't fit any of these cases or these cases, we're going to go ahead and say it's not a dog or a cat. So let's go ahead and run this and test it. And since for our variable here we have Doberman-Pinscher, this case is going to kick in because one of the options is Doberman-Pinscher. And the print is going to display a message that says Doberman-Pinscher is a dog. Now, just to show you that we can use other types of dogs for this case here and get the same output, let's go ahead and put in Boxer and run it. And we can see for the output we get Boxer is a dog. Now let's change this animal variable to, say, a lion. Let's go ahead and run it. And what should happen is this case should now kick in. And we can see in the console we get lion is a type of cat, and that is indeed what we expected, so we're good to go. Let's put in one more type of cat just to show you. Let's put in Siamese. And again, that's one of the options for this case, where the thing that we want it to do is display the message Siamese is a type of cat, and that's what we get down here in the console. Now, if we assign another value to this animal variable that doesn't fit this case or this case, our default should kick in. So let's go ahead and put in fish and run it. And we should get not a cat or a dog, and we do. Okay, moving on to our next example. In this example, we just wanted to show you that you can use switches with ranges. Okay, so once again, we have set this example up very similar to our previous switch examples. We have created our variable, which is the temperature. We've set it equal to 67. Then we create our switch, which will be set up to evaluate this variable and its value. And depending on its value, once again, we're just going to use a print to display a message. So if the value of this variable is between -10 and 50, this is where we're going to use our range. Then we want to use a print to display a message cold outside. If our temperature variable has a value between 51 and 67, display a message that says cool outside. If the value is between 68 and 87, display a message that says warm outside. If the value is between 88 and 110, display a message that says hot outside. And finally, we use our default. And in this case, we're just going to display a message that says don't go outside, because if it doesn't fit any of these cases or this criteria, then it means it's really cold outside or really hot. So we're just going to go ahead and say don't go outside. So let's go ahead and test our different cases. And the first thing we want to do is test the first case. So let's go ahead and put in -10 and run it. And we should get back cold outside. Okay, we do. It's cold outside. Let's change this now to, say, 51. And this is in this range here. So it should return the message cool outside. And that's what we get. Now let's test this case. So let's put in, say, 70. And for that case, we should get warm, and we do. Next, let's test the case here and put in 110. And for that, we get hot outside. And finally, let's test the default and put in 120. And for that, we should get back don't go outside. And we do. Okay, moving on to our last example. The thing that we wanted to show you here is that you can use a case with a variable or a constant. Okay, so let's go over this code. Once again, we have set this up basically the same as our previous examples. We have created our variable, then we create our switch. This switch is set up to evaluate the variable cat and its value. And then we have created our cases to do something based on the cat variable. So if the cat variable is equal to lion, then we want to display this message, second biggest cat. If the value for the cat variable fits any of these, mountain lion, cougar, or panther, we want to display a message that says a type of puma. And then in this example here, what we've done is we've created a case and we have created a variable. And the syntax for that is case let, and we just named the variable x. And then we say where the x variable has the suffix tiger. Display this message. Tigers are the largest cat. And then here we have created our default. And in this case, if the variable cat doesn't meet any of the cases here, then we just want to display an empty message. Okay, so let's go over this just a little bit more. The nice thing about this example is we can put in any type of tiger here and we will still be able to get back this message. So let's go ahead and test that. Currently we have set our cat variable to the value Bengal tiger, and since we used caselet x where x has the suffix tiger, we could put in different types of tigers and still get back the same message. So let's go ahead and run this. And you can see down here in the console we get back tigers are the largest cat. Now if we get rid of Bengal and we run it again, we still get the expected output, tigers are the largest cat. We could also put in Siberian and run it, and you can see we get back the expected output, tigers are the largest cat. So as long as this variable has the suffix tiger, we're always going to get back this message. Even though we're changing the variable slightly, we're still getting back the message that we want. Now let's test this switch just a little bit further, so we can go ahead and put in lion. And for that we should get back this message in the console, and we do. Let's go ahead and test this case here. So let's first put in cougar, and we should get back a type of puma, and that's what we get. And just like before in our earlier example, since this case has several different options, we can also put in panther, and we should still get back this message in the console after we run it. So let's run it, and we get back what we expected, a type of puma. Okay, so that's all we have for this tutorial on Swift switch statements. We will be doing many more Swift tutorials in the near future. Join us for those, and we'll see you next time.